Welcome folks, this is Rich Burtis, going to give you a quick tutorial on how to set item level security on SharePoint list items so that you can ensure that people named in the list people fields can get access to the right level read or contribute or edit to the list items and no one else can, and also to allow a SharePoint group. So if we look at the list settings on this group, if you create a SharePoint group and you want to have people in that group have access to that list item, you've got an admin team or an HR team want to do stuff. So if you create a custom group, then we can work to show you how that would be showing or give access to those people. So you just remember the name, and we can crack into it. So that we're going to use HTTP requests for this. I've got a previous tutorial where we cover off how to share or stop sharing and then grant access using the more simple options in Power Automate. So check that out if you're just looking for a basic use case. This example, especially with the SharePoint SharePoint groups, allows you to maintain the list of people in that group, and everyone in that group always gets access to the list item. So slightly better in terms of continuity of access as people come and go from different teams and groups. So let's start off. We're going to basically create a regular workflow. We'll nuke out Copilot, thanks. Basic items created. This is my list. The name of my list is invoice items. Okay, and the first thing we're going to do is break inheritance. If you're not sure what inheritance is, if we look at this here, we've got this area here where we manage parent stop inheriting permissions. So for each list item, we're going to make sure we stop inheriting permissions so that all these people don't get access initially, and then we'll supply the right access to the right people. To be able to run this workflow, you need to be an owner of the site or a site collection owner to ensure that you can call HTTP and still have access to items when you take away access. Within every SharePoint site, there should be an owners group. If you've deleted the owners group, add it back. You should always have one, but only have real owners in that group because these people will always get access to all the list items no matter what you do. So make sure that they're in and it's secured so that only the trusted people are in there. Don't put all your happy users into owners because it's easier. Add a different group with permissions and access so you can maintain and control some granularity if you need it. All right, so that segue aside, let's do HTTP. You get a few options. You're looking for SharePoint, send an HTTP request to SharePoint. Jump in there, going to pick your site. And the first one we're going to do is a post. So we're going to push something at it. And here we've got, I'm going to apologize in advance for any typos, so API. So just like the little sort of hint text, lists, getByTitle. You can add web in there as well, sometimes that way in case you get issues, but we want to go invoice items. All right, and then that, oh, I spelled that wrong straight away. Good job, I already apologized for any typos. So invoice items, then slash, we want to get the actual item of the one we're going to do this on, and so then we can create dynamic content from here. So it's API list getByTitle, name of your list, and then get the dynamic content for the ID, excuse me, of your trigger. And then don't need any speech marks in there because it's a number. Quick little comment here. This is the friendly name of your, or the name you see in the site. So there and here, this is what we're going to be looking for, right? So sometimes you can have a space in a SharePoint list item. So just put, if it wasn't needed a space, you just put a space so that you don't need to have the special characters for the name there because we're doing getByTitle. All right, so we've got the item. Then we're going to add in breakroleinheritance, and then that's going to break the connection. And then you've got a couple options. You can decide whether you want to just break inheritance to allow you to add custom security but keep everything else in place, or break inheritance and remove everything and then adding just things you want. In this example, we're going to remove everything. So there's a function called copyRoleAssignments. We're going to make that false. So it's not going to copy, not going to copy the setup. So only the owners will get access to this. And then we're also going to clear subscopes. I only had one copy today, peeps, so sorry about that. And then clearing subscopes equals true. True. Looking and typing, and it's not a slash. All right, that's it. Copy role assignments false. Clear subscopes equals true. Okay, what I'd like to do at this point in time is save it, go to my list, and or we can run a test up here, create a new item, and then just see it run. So let's test manually. Do that. That's just going to sit there. We'll jump into the list, add new item. This is just other system data for other tutorials, so don't stress about this. The most important thing here, we've got an owner. Let's put in Sutter, and let's put in another person. Great. Look at that, good old SharePoint adding in that. I bet if we refresh this list in a couple seconds, that number for the ID will change. What do you reckon? Oh, and it's changed the order. Oh, yeah, old modern workplace or modern look of SharePoint lists with a bit of functionality happening there. That's cool. So let's look at the list. This should kick off in a second and run. I'm going to pause while we do this. Okay, cool. So that has run. Took a couple seconds to run it. You can go into the HTTP request, no errors, right? So we can see it's invoice items on ID 7. Double check your ID 7 here. That's 7 there. If I refresh this and check things out, we'll be able to check security. So if I click it, click the list item, go to manage access, and we can see there is only me as the owner. I made it, and the owners group. Normally on an item, just to check one I haven't already run security on, we'd have the person that made it and then 5 groups, right? So all different people that can have access. So we have removed access. So right now only I can see it. Sutter and Ashley can't see this. All members of the group. Okay, so that's cool. That means we're working along. Let's move on with this. So put that in edit mode. What I find with SharePoint is you're going to want to put a couple of delays into this action because Power Automate is running and doing its thing, and so is SharePoint. SharePoint's changing permissions and access and security, so I like to put a 10-second delay between my HTTP requests, just because I've seen in the past Power Automate run faster than the SharePoint HTTP request API can run. I'll keep up, especially in an apply to each situation. So running it flat like this is probably okay, but it's nice to just be aware that you do sometimes need to give SharePoint a little bit of time, a little bit of love to make sure that it's going to work and run stuff. All right, so the first action we're going to do now, we're going to work on adding in members of the SharePoint group. So we're going to find the group. Okay, so another HTTP request, and we'll change its name, and we're going to just call it get group. Okay, and on here we're going to select our group, and it is a get because we're just going to get the name of it, and it's API web, and then we're going to call site groups, and then get by name. So that's the endpoint we want, and in here is the name of the group. So earlier on when we were showing you this list, we go back to the list, go to the permissions for the list. We can see we've got demo group for access. I just copy that. Let's see how that transfers into my little space here. Cool, and I'm going to just make sure I've no spaces at the end of that. Great, cool. Let's save that. Oops, not pause, just save. What this will do will return an array back for us so we can see information. So I want to be able to extract out the information from this group so I can call the ID of the group. In this group, if I click into it, we see we've got Chris and me in it, and it's slightly off the screen. But if I move this down into here, you'll see group ID is 64 is the name of the stuff, right? So that's what we're looking at. That's what we're going to hope to find, and what we're going to call out from this action. You could use it as a variable, or you can use a compose. I'm going to use a compose for this. Compose, that one. Okay. Give it a name. And we need to put an expression in here. So this way it gets a little bit kind of got to add some stuff to make sure you got it. And this is useful when you have the name of your action to be a little bit smaller. So we are going to do body, and then it is the name of that previous step, send, and then underscore for spaces, and HTTP get group. that will give us all of this. What we want to do is kind of find the subnode of the array so we can find the item. So it's square bracket, single speech mark, which will give us a double double, and it's actually called D. And then we do another one, d.id, and let's just do lowercase id on that. So we got it. So, oh, did that save? It didn't save. Right, let's do it again. Don't click away. Trick for young players, make sure you click the add button. Okay, let's try that again. Okay. Click add. So body, send an HTTP get group, send an HTTP get group, click add, then it goes in there. When you got it in edit mode the first time you got it, you can jump back in here and you can edit this again. Once you've saved it and you run it and go back, you'll find that you can't actually edit that again, so you need to retype it. So a useful thing to do is sometimes to copy that information and paste it somewhere where you can reuse it. Okay, so let's save this. And we have an error there. That's cool. What's going on there? Why did it disappear? Why isn't that fascinating? I should have saved and copied it. Pausing to make sure this works. Cool, so I spotted my error there. Hopefully you did too. Just single speech marks at either side of the body. Get a group with send it. So we saved it, got it. Let's run it. Let's run and test this so we can get the name of the group. We'll automatically run it on an item that we just did it on. Let this run. We should see in this area here when it comes up 64. There's a 10-second delay there, so we're going to sit there and watch that run. Cool, let's open this and we should see 64. Great. To show that D and DID stuff, we go down into the response we get back in the outputs, raw outputs for that item. This is all the information we get back from the request, and here we have the body, see, and then there's D, and then there is the ID. Okay, so that's how we drill down to get D and then the ID element of it. That's how that part works. Cool. All right, so we've got the group. We can put it back in edit mode, and then let's add access to this group to give Chris and Rich access to this list item. Okay, so next action, add an action, HTTP request. Because we've done an HTTP here, we're just getting information from another group, so we don't need to put a delay there. We can just go straight into it. So we've got that ID. We're going to use that ID in this one here. And notice how the new modern SharePoint, modern interface still keeps the name of the previous action. Just be aware of that. We're going to go add group members. Just to make sure you've got it, because if sometimes you just carry on and you forget that it's kept the same name as a previous step, and then you end up saving it, and then you wonder why it's not saving. Okay, Power Platform, what we're going to do is post, and then similar item here, it is underscore API, underscore API. I'm going to go web, lists, get by title, so the same setup as the last one, invoice items, and then items again, so similar build to the last one. Get the dynamic content of the item. Make sure you scroll down to find the actual item that you want when an item is created. So it's that ID. Close the bracket, and then we're going to go role assignments. And then here we're going to add role assignments. Okay, and then here when you're adding role assignment, you've got to select who you're going to add the role assignment for. So this one we need to add in the principal ID. And then that equals our action from here from dynamic content. Just that. Okay, comma, and then now you say, right, I'm going to give a role assignment to that group ID, but what is the roleDefId we're going to give? This is where it gets a bit kind of weird, because you've got to add like a big number to give yourself contribute. So 10737418827. I'll post a link in the chat for this, or sorry, in the description for this item to explain. There are several different role definition IDs, all with long numbers like that, and they all have different digits at the end. And the one does read, one does contribute. We do a few different things. But basically that's contribute or edit access for this particular item. So that's the group. So let's save and run, and then we can see how the workflow has changed. We'll run that on the previous item. And just pause while that's running. Cool, so that has run. We can see we've got access there. I'm going to put that back into edit mode and just show you that. I think I had a typo in here, but I fixed it to run. But let's just check that to make sure you're using that. I'll copy this info into the description as well, but under people and groups, go back to this list item. And let's see how ID 7 is looking. So the new bag, let's manage access. And now we can see there's two groups. So owners and then this group, and they can edit. All right, so they can go in and do it. That's cool, that's what we wanted. So now we need to basically work through the same process for individual users as well. So let's do that. So jump back over into Power Automate. What we'll do here is add a delay because we just run an action. Let's give ourselves another 10 seconds. Okay. Do that, and then another HTTP request. Actually, what we'll do here is we will just advise around in this list. There may not be a person added to this one. There will be a person added here, so that's always required. In this scenario, there may or may not be a person, right? So if we did it for another person, we put a control in there with an if-else statement to check the length of, or check that it wasn't null. So let's run that. We do it for another person. So condition, and then we're going to go dynamic content, and the name of that column is another person. So select something like another person.email. Okay, so another person is not equal to, and then put an expression in there for null. That. Cool. So then we're just going to check it's not equal to null. So then we can go down on the true side and add access for that person via another HTTP request. Just saves us. Otherwise, in your app or in your SharePoint list, make it required, and then go for that. And then see we've got the same name again. We add another person. Cool, and then it's another post. And then on what we want to do first of all, actually, we don't want to do this because we don't actually know the ID of the user, so we want to roll that back. We're going to get first of all. Get. We're not going to add, we're going to get. Okay, similar, just like how we did for the getting the group name, we still hit another endpoint, but it's API web and it's site users, not group. Okay, and then we're going to go get by email, and then inside that is a string, right? So we want to have set ourselves up to receive a string, and in here make sure you get in between the two speech marks, dynamic content, and do a search. We're going to give another person email in that space there, right? So let's save that. That's another get, so we can then do the same processes up here, right? Get the I've saved this and see that's now linked. You can't really change that, but we're going to do the same action with a different compose down here. But we're going to call out this action. You can see here, adding, making sure you've got the right names for everything is important, so you can find what you're doing all the time. So we're back in here, body, send, and HTTP, get another person. Once you've done this a few thousand times, it becomes a bit easier to type out. So we've got that, and then we're going to run the action to actually add that person. Okay, and we'll give them the same access as we did for the other group. HTTP. HTTP. Send an HTTP. This time we're going to do the post. We're going to change that to add another person. Jump in, Power Platform, post, and then API. It's basically the same. What we could do here to save yourself effort, take the same snippet from here, paste that into this action, and then we change it, right? Rather than watch me butcher adding things in, but we need to make sure we delete the item and the outputs just to say, probably don't need to delete the item because we know it's the same one, but it's kind of good just to make sure we're getting that. So when I was created, get the ID in there, principalid equals in here, we're going to add in the other ID person bit. Do that, save that. All right, and then we can look at ID 7. We've got Ashley as another person node, so let's test this and run it. Cool, and I will just pause this while it runs. Cool, there we go, that ran. Obviously it takes a little bit longer. The main thing is here, remembering that when it's triggered, you're going to take away all access, so there's going to be a period of like 20 seconds before people get access. Shouldn't be a showstopper, but we can see here we've added another person. Let's go back and look at the list, just refresh that, and then we'll click manage access on ID 7, and then we can see who's got access. There we go, so Ashley can also edit here, and then we still got the group. So it's all working as expected. So then you can just start expanding out your list, expanding out your workflow so you can keep adding more and more people. Key thing to remember, just dropping in delays. If you've just done a post into SharePoint, give a delay and then add another post if you're going to sort of step adding in different people. And that is your quick tutorial on how to add this. I'll put in the links here, the different code snippets into the description. Any questions, please reply, add comments, questions. I'm happy to answer them. Cheers, bye.